Well, a family with a long history of military service now wants to serve veterans transitioning into civilian life by helping them land a job. Eyewitness News reporter Adi Guajardo joins us live in the newsroom to show us what they're doing and how they're using social media to do it. Adi.
Well, Phil, Facebook has become the hub to find friends, community groups, even jobs online. But I spoke to one small business who tells me they had trouble posting their positions on local veteran Facebook pages. So they decided to take an initiative and build their own Facebook page to help those veterans land a job.
For 11 years, John Frias put everything on hold to serve his country in the Army Reserve.
I had a lot of responsibility. I was tasked with a lot of things to do.
In 2010, he was deployed to Iraq for a year, only to come back to civilian life where he faced a tough reality.
Trying to find a job and getting back into the swing of civilian life was difficult. Trying to find an employer that didn't require a lot of education.
Despite a series of accomplishments and experience,
the medals, unfortunately, don't go on resumes.
A troubling trend his wife, Angelica Frias, says she saw her father, brother, and uncles experience after their service.
It's really heartbreaking because you know what they're capable of, and you've seen them go on these deployments and fight for their country and put their life on the line.
So when they started their own business, they wanted to hire veterans. But Angelica says she became frustrated trying to post job openings in local veteran Facebook pages.
They were kind of hard to get into, and I have yet to be accepted into those groups.
Eager to help veterans use social media to land a job, she launched her own Facebook page and named it Veteran Employment Opportunities in Texas.
It's so simple. Veterans can get on this page, employers can get on this page, and they can just merge.
Opening more doors to job opportunities with a simple click.
Give veterans a shot. Even if they do not seem to meet all your criteria, their drive, their work ethic, their passion in what they do is leaps and bounds of what they can accomplish for you.
Now, the family created this Facebook page last week, and it's completely public, so employers can go on there, and so can veterans, to apply for jobs and even post jobs. Now, the family hopes that everyone shares this Facebook page to really gain access and give those access to all those veterans out there and all those employers looking to hire veterans. In the newsroom, Adi Guajardo, KENS 5, Eyewitness News.